You don't know what's out there.
That's why I would go.
Welcome back to Wild Dream, where we give you the freshest takes on the latest movies. My name is David.
And my name is Daniel.
And we are here giving you guys yet another review. So we are bringing you fresh takes on the latest movies.
You better believe it.
Back-to-back episodes, 2 episodes in 2 weeks. What's wrong with us?
Something's going on. But we said last week, we said last week, we're not going to worry about it. We're not going to, we operate as we operate. Now, this is an interesting slate. Why is that? Because everyone's been talking about the month of May and how the month of May is all about horror movies. We had Hokum. We had Obsession. We had Passenger. We have The Backrooms. So when it came to this weekend, it was like, hey, that horror movie is out, the Passenger movie is out, but also this weekend is I Love Boosters from Boots Riley. Hasn't put out a film since Sorry to Bother You, which was almost 10 years ago.
Right.
So it was do we continue with this kind of trend and the whole buzz around the public kind of perception of this is the month of horror and just do the horror movies only? And I was like, man, I can't in good faith go watch this Passenger, a random horror movie over someone with such a singular voice as Boots Riley and what he's shown. So we decided to go see I Love Boosters.
Yeah.
However, friend of the pod, of course, guest on the pod multiple times, our friend Mo went to go see Passenger. Mm-hmm. So here's a spoiler-free review for Passenger. We have our reporters out in the streets, right?
Yes.
So Mo did go see Passenger this weekend. This is Mo's review of Passenger. Ha 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 ha. This movie is dog shit. Some of the worst acting I've seen in a very, very long time. My God, these are all back to back, by the way. My God, man. Ha 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 ha. Night and day going from Obsession to that piece of shit movie. And then his last words on it were, it's almost as bad as that one movie that came out last year with She-Hulk.
Yeah, so if you guys remember our Keeper review, Mo went to go see Keeper, and he will not stop talking about how much he fucking hates that movie.
He has said it's maybe the worst movie he's ever seen in his life.
Yeah.
He hated Keeper somehow more than we hated Keeper. And our Keeper episode is a 50-minute episode of us going, hey, this is not a really synopsis plot, we're not doing a rundown. This is just talking about how bad this movie.
It was we weren't planning on even doing a review for that movie. We saw it and it was so bad that we were like, let's sit down for like 30 minutes and just talk shit. And we sat down for 50 minutes to talk shit. And it was like, this isn't barely even a shortened episode at this point, Based on everything that I have seen about Passenger, this is what I'm certain of for this movie.
However bad you think this movie is, and I know a lot of y'all don't fuck with my movie takes, but trust you me.
I believe you on this.
If you see somebody say something good about this movie, they have been paid, they are a bot, or they don't mean well for you. This movie is worse than you thought it was gonna be.
It looks pretty bad.
Hey, no. This movie.
And the reason I say that is all of the other, movie review, which I know there's no other movie reviewers. We're the only ones who do this.
But all these AI generated
movie reviewers. But no, when I see other videos of other people talking about Passenger, it's like I'll see one video, they go, this movie fucking sucks. This is awful. One of the worst movies of the year. And then the next video will be like, oh my God, I'm still so scared. I can barely even get in my car. After seeing Passenger, I don't think I'll ever be able to get in a car again. And it says, learn more, ad at the bottom. I'm like, okay. Like everyone saying anything positive about this movie was paid to say something positive about this movie. So bad. Like I hate that shit so much. And I'm like, I hate that people are out here like really still making money doing movie reviews when they are clearly being paid to like every movie they go see. You know what I'm saying? I'm just like, how can anyone trust a goddamn thing you say?
I feel that, and shout out to, I'm not going to say his handle because we need more shine, not him. But one of my newly found favorite movie reviewers, a guy whose opinion I don't agree with probably most of the time. So that's how you know he's good, is because I don't even agree with his takes on film. But I really like the way that he speaks about movies and stuff. He had a post recently, like right before maybe May or so. I can't remember, but he was like, hey guys, this is a post to let you know that in the next like week or so, I'm going to have like 4 paid ads coming out. So just a heads up, the next like 4 things you see are all sponsored.
Right.
And then like his next post is like, AMC Plus has a bunch of amazing shows, blah, blah. He just said straight up.
Yeah.
And I was like, shout out to creators like that who.
Yeah. And I'll tell you this,
Yeah.
we don't get paid a dime
We do
for
not.
this podcast. Not a dime. So like when we are blowing Shudder for an entire fucking episode, like we don't make a dime off of that. Like
Mm-hmm.
when we give you our fresh and honest takes, these opinions will live in a vault somewhere for, generations to listen to. And, that's the point of this podcast. It has never been about trying to get into the industry. And I feel like some people are like, oh, if I want to get invited to premieres, I got to like every movie I go see and be best friends with these studios and blah, blah, blah. It's like, I'm not saying we would not want that.
Of
You know what I'm
course,
saying?
of course. But yeah, the number one example of that is the fact that our first episode of this podcast is shitting on Alamo Drafthouse and saying, do not go here. This place fucking sucks. So we immediately sever ties that could ever possibly exist in a hypothetical
So true.
on the first episode. So it's like, and we were very ahead of the curve on that, of course. But as we
Yeah, it
mentioned,
turns out, they were fucking
But-
dog shit company anyway. We
But-
win.
yeah, we're never going to manufacture or sugarcoat anything, and that's.
You can cancel me for that. I don't care. It's just my opinion. Go ahead and cancel me.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a couple of these posts too with Passenger, and I think that it is. I've seen someone that also said on one of the more honest reviews, someone said whoever made the Passenger trailer needs a raise immediately.
Yeah, they did. I did like the trailer of that
Yeah.
movie. I was like, oh, this actually looks kind of interesting. But at the same time, I told you that I watched an anthology series on Shudder, and it was sponsored by the Australian Film Commission, which we have learned is doing a lot to help filmmakers there, and they're putting out a lot of good movies. And they had an anthology, short film series on Shudder, and one of them was about people getting into a car crash or seeing a car crash. And I told you about it, and I was like, this is a very good thing, and I think it only is good as a short. I was like, if they went any longer with that, it would have been bad. So like, that's a good thing. It's kind of like, and I hear like, Curry Barker, and he's talking about how, when he was first doing Obsession, that short film, The Chair that he did, he had producers reaching out to him saying, hey, we want to make a feature length of The Chair. And he was like, actually, I have this other idea. Please, will you listen to it? Mm-hmm. And he was able to advocate for himself for Obsession. So I do think that sometimes, we say this all the time, stories should be a short story. And from what I know what Passenger is about, maybe it's not a feature-length idea.
Yeah, and I
don't
don't want to dwell too long on that movie because that's not what this is about. But I did want to at least address it and have our ground reporter Mo give his review. So that's what the streets are saying about Passenger. But we saw I Love Boosters.
Yes.
I was very excited for this movie because Sorry to Bother You was just such a singular artistic vision that felt like, and I say this from a place of someone who is not I'm not a cinephile or like a movie.
I'm not a cinema pedophile.
I'm not a cinema pedophile. I'm not a film bro guy or like, I don't know. You referenced like what Dr. Parnassus or something. What was it called?
Oh, yeah.
Dr. Caligari or
Yeah.
something. Like you referenced something.
Cabinets of Dr. Yeah.
Yeah, that I was like, I thought you made that up.
Right.
And then it turns out it's a real thing from like 1930s or something. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
so I don't really have a
That's like the movie, Dr. Calgary's Cabinet of whatever, I don't know.
Yeah, and I don't-
That movie is what film bro, how's the mise en scenes kind of fucking guys.
Yeah, and I don't.
That's their favorite movie.
That's why I'm like careful to say like, well, for me, I had never seen anything like Sorry to Bother You.
Right.
Like genuinely meant that. So maybe there is a filmmaker out there that has movies just like this. I don't know. Obviously, there was a lot of inspiration from Michel Gondry, which he made a whole joke about in Sorry to Bother You. So he clearly, there was some of that was present, but I was just like, dude, I have not seen a movie like this. So when it came to I Love Boosters, I didn't even really love the trailer, but I was like, I knew I was going to see it no matter what. And that's
the thing is whoever made the trailer for I Love Boosters needs to be fired because that did not represent this movie well enough. I think I was like, I agree. I think the trailer, I was like, I don't have any, like this looks as bad as the other Keke Palmer crime movie where she plays a poor person committing crimes to get by. Like I was like, it seems just like that. I forgot what that one was. Who was that in that movie with her? The SZA.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't like the trailer. I didn't think it was horrible. But I think that they, especially now having seen the movie, they really chose some of the weaker things to show. And I get that you want to keep the mystery of a film this chock full of stuff going on. But at the same time, like it really did leave me wanting a lot more in terms of interest. So
yeah, I think it made the movie seem more grounded than it is. It is a very eccentric movie.
Sure.
So here are some words that you guys are going to hear in this review, and I just want to preface this. Okay, you're going to hear,
but you can still get pregnant from preface.
You can still get pregnant from preface, and you're going to hear singular voice. You're going to hear original. You're going to hear unique. You're going to hear special. We're going to refer to these words over and over and over again because that is a huge appeal to a Boots Riley movie. You know, for these two movies that he's done, especially for this one, we are excited because he has such a unique, special, original, creative, singular voice where his work, like even this movie, I could say, well, it kind of reminds me of Yorgos at certain points, and it kind of reminds me of Dr. Seuss at certain points, and it kind of reminds me of Wes Anderson at certain points. It's like all these different influences all coming together. It even reminds me of a Daniels movie too. It reminds me of Everything Everywhere All at Once at times. So you're gonna hear these things, but it's like, oh, when you can say that reminds me of this, 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 and you still have moments of the movie where I go, no one's done that.
Yeah.
Then you have this really special thing because he's not copying any one thing. He's not taking one singular influence, but he is putting something out there that is so special and unique and creative that you can respect the fact that he has this very unique voice and uses a lot of elements that we really enjoy in movies. He uses minimalistic sci-fi in this movie. He uses, grounded elements and, eccentricities to personify real world issues. And I think that that's like what Sorry to Bother You did to a really high degree. And this movie also does. He's like, let's take real world issues, real political problems, real political movements, real troubles and things, and let's make this very eccentric and funny and exciting and crazy movie to overly personify these things, to overly exaggerate them to the nth degree. And I'm like, this movie, I think, does what Don't Look Up was trying to do at times better.
Yeah.
And less, I think that for me, my least favorite part of this movie is how often they did over-explain, right? Mm-hmm. Like there's just too many moments where they perfectly do satire, and I go, I know exactly what they're making fun of. Hell yeah. Way to fucking point out how dumb and shitty this is that people do this in real life. And then later they look in the camera and go, what we were doing in that scene was we were doing this thing. I was like, yeah, I know.
It's too heavy-handed.
Not ham-fisted?
Not ham-fisted. Guys, update. Last week, I said it's so ham-fisted. Is that the right term? And Dave said it's a term now because you keep saying it. I looked it up. Ham-fisted means clumsy. Heavy-handed is what I'm trying to say. Heavy-handed.
I'm not gay no more. I am delivered. I don't like men no more. I said I like women. Women. I said women.
Dan has corrected his ways.
I've done it. I've seen the light. So yeah, it is very heavy-handed in that way of exposition, especially like you said, very. I know it's hyperbole saying they're staring right into the camera saying this is what this is about, but
yeah, I mean we make fun of that in Brock
to
Shadow.
That level, yeah.
Like there were times in this movie where it did feel like the main character doing what Brock Shadow does, where he explains everything, and then he does look at the camera and goes, and that is my backstory, and that is my motivation for everything that I'm doing.
One of the first drops we had on this podcast was that.
Yeah, that's true.
We need to get that back on the board, apparently.
Honestly.
But it's probably important to mention, too, that we just last week did Obsession, which did not do this at all.
Right. And I see interviews with Curry Barker where we give our freshest takes on this episode. I think Dan and I would raise the score of that movie after everything we've seen. And we tried to give the freshest take on it. And that for me, Project Hail Mary, 100%, I increased the score in my head after the episode. You know what I'm saying? Like that does happen sometimes. We will enjoy a movie even more after learning more about it. That's what the point of part 2 is supposed to be. But my point is that I watched interviews with him where he explained that. That was a very intentional thing. He does not feed you information that you can interpret. And this movie, I'm not saying they always do that, but they do that sometimes. And it's like specifically regarding the political message of the movie. They will like overly explain it. And I was like, I thought you already, like, you're good. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, in a satire movie, that's the least necessary thing, you know? And they don't do that in Blazing Saddles. Like, they don't, look at the camera and go, if you remember, there was racism in this country for an X amount of time. And I was like, yeah, we know. You know what I'm saying? Like, once you make fun of something, just make fun of it. You know, don't over explain the message of a movie. And they did that so many times. And even just like exposition. You know, there were moments at the beginning of this movie where they're, she's like, well, after I blah, 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 well, don't you blah, 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 and just explaining her whole life and why she's where she is and, all this stuff. So
yeah,
it
was pretty sloppy in that way.
Yeah. Sloppy is a great way to put it.
Pretty sloppy with the exposition and how to present it. I was really annoyed at how many times and different ways they explain what a booster is.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I could have figured this out without you ever telling me, by the way. Like, they do it so many times in the movie. I'm like, dude, we get it. So very heavy-handed in the way that they do that. It is extremely creative. What are the words? Creative, singular, it's original.
Unique.
It's a very realized vision. The filmmaking itself just really, really shines in this movie.
100%.
There's so many different types of filmmaking going on in this film. It's like very inspiring.
I think a lot of this movie is very intentional. I think that is one of the best things about it is that, the camera movement is special and unique, in the way that they do things. And some of it, like I said, is, you could say, oh, this kind of looks like how Wes Anderson would do something. And this kind of looks like how this, whatever. But it's also in this context with the motion of the movie where the movie feels like so dynamic. That's the best word I can use. Like it's got really high highs and really low lows, and like it just keeps going up and down. So it's an engaging movie for sure. And the boringest moments of the movie, they still keep you engaged by using color and aspect ratios and and camera movement. And I think actually one of the best elements of this entire movie, and one that I'm really excited to talk about, is the music. Because last week I said that my really only issue with Obsession was that the music doesn't really elevate the movie, and I think it should. I think music should be intentional and to elevate. And I don't know if I mentioned this on the last episode, but I think a perfect example of that is One Battle After Another. I think in that movie, the music elevates the scene every time it's introduced. This movie is very similar. I think the music in this movie is very, very intentional. It elevates the scenes that it is in, and it goes with the movie at the perfect time for that section of the movie. I thought they did the music really well.
What you would expect from a musician making a film.
True.
To have a good choice of who to score. So, yeah, they did great. I agree 100%. I think what's interesting about this movie is we're saying, yes, it's very original. It's so creative. It's so singular. It's this, it's that. And that's all true. But I will also say at the same time, if someone that tagged along with us to come watch this movie and they walked out, I would understand.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Get that too.
Like, I would understand if there's a certain scene that when it happens, if someone were to walk out, I would be like, I get it.
Yeah,
I get it.
Yeah.
And
I'll bet I can guess what's
and I don't know, like, I would assume I've talked about this on the pod before, but that's what happened to me with Tree of Life when I went to see that movie in theaters. I walked out of that movie. Or no, I think it was I wanted to, but I was with someone. And it was during the creation of the universe sequence, which, why would you want to walk out? That sounds really entertaining. I wanted to walk out so bad, but I stuck it out because I was with a friend who was going to stay. Right. And I told him after the movie, I was like, if you were not there, I would have walked out. 100% I would have walked out of that movie. And then I watched that movie years later and wept. It spoke to me in such a way that I was... So that can happen too. Is something can be a little too eccentric, or maybe a little too something advanced, maybe too whatever, that it just doesn't click for you in that moment. So even if someone were to walk out of this movie, there's always a chance that they could revisit it another time and it clicks with them. But yeah, there was a scene where I was like, yeah, if someone walked out, I would get it. You know, it's not for everybody. And
Yeah, I think
this one is out there. We're kind of underselling it right now. This movie is fucking out there.
Yeah, like it is. Again, it's special. It's unique. It is creative. Like I say it's Susie. You know, Seussical-esque.
I'm really glad
Seussical. That's why I did the Seussical musical in high school. It was very Dr. Seuss-esque, you know, in a lot of ways. And it when I say like this movie at times feels like Cronenberg made a Dr. Seuss movie. Like you'd be like, what the fuck? I can't even imagine what that would look like. I'm like, yeah, exactly. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's so strange and weird and out there. In a lot of good ways. In a lot of good ways.
Yeah.
Now, I think that from a negative standpoint, if I could sit down with Boots Riley and, you know, have one conversation with him, I would say, listen, man, you were so creative. You were so great. You know, give him the compliments first. And I'll say, you have one question you need to answer for yourself. How do you know when you're finished? Because in both of the movies that you've made, it feels like you don't know when the end of the movie is. And so you just keep going and going and going and going. Like, this movie felt like it had 5 climaxes. You know, you have this normal story structure. You have the introduction and then the inciting incident and the rising action and the climax and then the, you know, resolution and then, you know, whatever. This movie felt like it just had so many moments where it's like, oh, this is the big moment. Now this is the big moment. Now this is the big moment. I'm just like, and I understand that there's a lot of stories being told all at once. There's a lot of like moving pieces to this movie, but it still just felt like, oh, you wanted to resolve everything and you also wanted each individual aspect of this movie to have its own climax. Well, then I start getting bored. You know, and that's like the last thing you want to do is when you're watching a movie that is this interesting and special and unique and creative and out there and different to then get bored. This movie should have never bored me. You know what I'm saying? But it did at times. And I think that that's, you know, that's a big reason for it. It's just trying to do too much and not just wrapping everything up. And I'm not saying every movie needs to have a pretty little bow on it. But what I am saying is if there's a bow, don't put 15 bows on one package. I think a good example of this is like a good example of the other way, of a good version of it, is Requiem for a Dream. You know, that movie tells multiple different stories. And it ends by showing the ending of every story. And I still think that they did it really succinctly and like almost in a perfect way. It's been a long time since I've seen it, so I don't want to say anything about the movie's perfect. I don't know. But my memory of it is I remember thinking this is a perfect ending.
It does struggle with that in this film for sure. It starts to become this jumbled mess of... And mess is a harsh word, but it's so hard to keep up with. It's like a very scatterbrained, all over the place. I always say this, but it's just the best way that my mind envisions it, but a Jackson Pollock painting of a film. And when it becomes that way, I start to just kind of, it's almost like when you have to take your glasses off and rub your eyes.
Yeah.
Because there's just this like nagging feeling that's this pulsing like, God, you just got to rub it away. It's that similar to that feeling that it's just too much. It's almost like a headache. And
yeah, you're like, you know, almost 2 hours into a movie and you think they're about to wrap it up. And then the main character is like.
So we moved to LA. My father gets a job at the Palm Restaurant. My Uncle Junior works there, who was a Jehovah's Witness, believe it or not. He went from Catholic to Jehovah. So basically, my grandmother wanted us all to switch from Catholic to Jehovah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing?
And yeah, this movie does struggle with that. I love that you brought up Dr. Seuss because I'm glad we were on the same page with that. Because throughout the movie, I was like, oh my God, this looks like the
live action Cat in the Hat.
It looks like Cat in the Hat. Yeah. I was like, was this the same production designer? Because it reminded me so much of that live action Cat in the Hat in terms of its production design, of course. But also even in its surrealism at points. But yeah, there was that moment a little bit after halfway through the movie where I was like, oh man, I don't know. I'm really, really losing interest. And then by the time that you are trying to gain your interest back by things wrapping up, you're also like, damn, what is going on? Like, how many times are we going to end the movie? So that creates its own kind of disinterest in the film as well.
Yeah.
So it definitely is flawed. It's definitely flawed, but it's...
And Sorry to Bother You had some flawed moments too.
For sure.
You know, in a similar way that they're ending, that movie also felt like they just kept ending and kept ending and kept ending, you know, so...
Yeah.
But at the same time, from a positive perspective, even with all of that, I still think the movie is worth seeing. I do think it's so long and goes on for so long, it would kind of tamper my excitement to watch it again, you know? And that's kind of like, that feels unfair almost too, because I'm like, this movie does so much. I should be happy to, you know, watch this movie again. But I just I'm not willing to invest that time again because of how egregious it was. So that's why we say it, like that's the biggest negative. But from a positive perspective, this movie is worth seeing because it does have this very special and unique, you know, way of expressing this story that's very important and politically driven and satirical. And so it's like, it's funny, it's exciting, it's well paced for the first 2/3 of the movie, you know, and you know, just very, very creative.
Yes, I would agree with that. I think it's one of those movies where the highest highs are better than the lowest lows.
Yeah.
They outweigh it. I do think, you know what else it reminded me of a bit is just in terms of the type of storytelling going on with the surrealism and the very specific subject matter in the movie and the specific characters that get to tell this story. It reminded me of Problemista a little bit.
Yeah, that again, another voice you could add to an example.
Yeah.
Of eccentricities and, you know, personifications and everything.
Exactly. It reminded me of him in those certain ways as well. So yeah, I also agree that this one is definitely watchable. I think the most shocking thing about this movie is, well, other than the subject matter and some of the scenes that happen, is and how they portray some of those scenes and characters and car chases, is you know what else this movie reminded me of? Damn it, now that I'm thinking about it, because I'm like thinking about some of the way that they film some of the stuff. It reminds me of the Power Rangers show.
Okay, yeah, sure.
You know what I'm saying?
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit. But anyways, what I was going to say is one of the most shocking things on the outside looking in from this movie is me and Dave both, like, as soon as the movie was over, we were like, that was long, you know, and like we haven't really felt the length of a movie in a while.
You shouldn't feel relieved a movie is over.
Exactly.
That's
it's
the
kind
problem,
of sour.
I think.
It's a sour taste. The shocking thing about it is it's shorter than Obsession.
That's actually crazy to me.
Does that not warp your mind a little bit?
Yeah.
This is shorter than Obsession. This was only about an hour 40.
Wow.
So I think it's only like 2 minutes shorter or something like that. It's a
Right.
really small amount, but I was
Being
like,
under 2 hours is surprising to me.
exactly. I for sure thought this was over 2 hours. So the fact that it's only an hour 44 is pretty insane. But yeah, other than that, again, it's just such a special, creative, awesome movie that my issues with it does not make it an unwatchable movie. It doesn't move it into just mid at all.
Yeah.
It is absolutely an above average. It is absolutely an above average film that I will watch again.
Yeah.
100%.
And I think I will too. But even like, because we're so obsessed with physical media right now, you know, the first half of the movie, I was like, ooh, I'm going to get this one. Because I want to see some behind the scenes of how they made this.
Oh, definitely.
You know?
Definitely.
And then like towards the end, I was like, do I want to own this movie? Because I'm going to have to watch this movie again, you know? So like that's pretty bad. But yeah, no, you're right. When I think about the special features aspects of a good Blu-ray or, you know, of this movie, I want to know what it looked like on set making some of these sequences and these scenes, because it is so different. And I can't wait to give you guys some examples in spoiler talk, but I will say something I can say in spoiler free is that this is a very colorful movie, right? A big motif and a big theme of this movie is fashion, you know, and like it kind of pokes fun at the fashion industry to a certain degree. Not, you know, it's not The Devil Wears Prada, you know, it's not all about fashion. It's more about, you know, the classism, essentially. Like that's the main message of the movie is, you know, the ultra wealthy versus the working people. So that's the main message of this movie. But fashion is a big part of it. And the fashion industry just happens to be the focus of that class system and class struggle. And they did such a good job with all of the fashion in this movie and the color patterns and everything. And I also just wanted to explain to people, because I try to remind you guys that I went to film school sometimes, but this film follows the 60-30-10 rule, right? So the 60-30-10 rule is it's a concept for both film and design and, everything, where 60% of your color should be your primary color, whatever color is the main focus of that scene. And then 30% needs to be your accent color. So there's these different accents and special things that you're adding to the scene of another color. And then 10% is a color pop. And when you do that, a scene or a piece of media or visuality, feels more colorful. I think that an example of this is pretty much everything Wes Anderson does. Like, he follows the 60-30-10 rule to the nth degree, right? Mm-hmm. And if you were to, film a movie, I think, I don't know, Enemy is a perfect example of a movie that never follows that rule. Like, that movie is yellow.
I'm about to say, that has a really yellow tone from what I remember. Enemy.
So anyways, my point is that this movie does follow the 60-30-10 rule. So when you look at it, you go, wow, that looks really colorful. And it's because a lot of intention was put into the color theme of this movie.
I was going to say the exact same thing, word for word, about the 60-30-10 rule thing that I'm also familiar with previous to you mentioning that. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was going to. So it's a good thing you already did it so that I don't have to. Because right before you started saying that, I was like, dude, you know what? This movie really does follow the 60-30-10 rule, something that we're both familiar with.
Right.
And so,
Right.
And I Good gems. That's all I got to say for spoiler-free talk. Definitely go watch this movie. It's a really, really fun experience. And this would be really fun with a lot of friends too, I think. Like, the more the merrier for me. If your friends are cool.
Yeah.
Don't invite the lame one.
Here's Dan explaining the 60-30-10 rule.
I know she got kidnapped when she was young. And that's part of the reason that she's the way she is. She's got PTSD or whatever, post-traumatic Down syndrome. No, it's not. She ain't got Down syndrome. I know she got kidnapped when she was young.
Oh, man. All right. Let's get into some spoiler talk. Glamour. Fashion. Clothes. Everyone dies. Main characters, side characters, even the creators are all dead. Spoiler alert.
Bow, 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 bow.
Okay, you guys ready for the rundown?
I'm so ready for the rundown. I wish you luck.
Okay, no. I got this. Chat, let me holler at y'all.
Yo, chat, let him cook, man.
Let me cook. Can I cook, please?
May thy cook.
This movie is about a young woman named Cassandra. They also call her Corvette, I believe.
Corvette.
Is her fake name, her alias. Mm-hmm. And she is squatting at the moment, and she and her friends are boosters. Now, if you don't know what a booster is, they explained this in the movie a couple of times. A booster is somebody who usually steals merchandise from a store and sells it on the street for cheaper. So her and her friends, they steal clothing specifically from this designer brand that is run by this really specific designer, and then they sell it on the street. Now, she does have aspirations and dreams to be a fashion designer. She has posted her stuff on Instagram and things like that, and she considered being a part of this contest to, be a fashion designer. So while she does steal from this, designer, she also looks up to her. But the problem is that this character is also kind of a piece of shit. So not kind of. This character is also a piece of shit. So she's very angry, and she's blaming everything that's not successful about their business on the boosters. Anything that goes wrong, she's like, yeah, it's because of the boosters. They're stealing our shit.
Yeah, she being the designer, Christy Smith.
Christy Smith.
Christy. Hey, girl.
So what ends up happening is that the group of people who are doing the boosting, they end up getting a job at one of these places, and they have this idea to do a massive hit where they're going to take every single item in the entire store. And while they're there, they meet one of the coworkers who has been fighting for workers' rights for the people who work at the different stores for this fashion brand. And they're like, listen, we're not here for that shit, so we don't care. And then they find that all of the clothes in the store were stolen by somebody else before they got to it. And then they go and they find the person who did that. Now, that person is a person who works at the factories where the clothes are made. And she has discovered, and again, this movie has minimalistic sci-fi, so just understand we're going to say some wild shit in this review. And just know it's all real and exists in this movie. She has found a teleporter. So she has found out that her company invented or they stole teleportation technology from the Chinese government so they didn't have to pay for shipping anymore so that they can do the clothes.
I forgot about that.
So she has stolen these devices and she is teleporting all of the clothes back to a random warehouse in China as a way for her to start advocating for the workers in China, for them to actually listen to their demands for better wages and less hours and to stop doing sandblasting on denim because it's bad for you. So, there's that aspect of the workers' rights and, the lower class, being dominated upon. And then what's happening in Cassandra's life is she also has discovered that this artist that she really looked up to and this, fashion designer who she wanted to be just like has stolen her design for a dress. And her design is, was never submitted to her, but she posted it on Instagram. So she's thinking, oh, she saw my shit and just redid it. So, not only that, but she has a conversation with her at one point and she mentions her favorite color and why her favorite color is so important to her. And she has this great, moment like that. And then she steals that too. She does a whole wing of her home in that color and does a little interview where she, explains all this stuff. So she's just taking ideas from these, people, these lower class people, like literally lower financial class. They're not lower class people. You know what I'm saying? So, there's so many aspects of this movie that are, about classism and class warfare, So the boosters decide to start working with this woman who was at the factory, and they are using the teleporter device to rob a bunch of stores very quickly, with, 70% of the clothes going to China and 30% of the clothes going to the boosters so they can go and sell them. Now, they know that there's going to be this big fashion show coming up, and they're going to be releasing the spring line or the fall line. I forget which one it is, but the big line of clothing is coming out, and there's going to be this big fashion show. So they're like, well, we need to do a big hit there. But what ends up happening is after all these people start to realize that they are actually getting to this designer, they're actually getting in her head and they're getting her to notice them or whatever. They also discover that this teleporter does more than just teleport. Now, again, they explain this too much. I think so.
Yeah. And this is about the time when in the movie when I started to, I don't want to say nod off because I wasn't actually about to fall asleep, but I was like, all right, I'm losing interest in the movie now. And it was when they started explaining the different channels that you can use of the teleporter machine.
Yes. And I thought it was pretty simple to understand, even without dialogue or context.
Same.
But this is how they explain it. One is a teleporter. The second one is an accelerator. It accelerates the situation or the whatever it is. It accelerates it. And then there's the
degenerator, maybe?
Degeneration or whatever. It's like the delete button, right? So that reverts something back to its original form. So like if in an example, they shoot a wooden door and it turns into a tree, so it degenerates itself. If they shoot clothing, it becomes fabric. If they shoot fabric, it becomes cloth and cotton, just like whatever. So that is what they decide to do. They're going to go to this fashion show and they're going to degenerate all of these new designs in this entire fall line. Now, throughout the movie, there also been talks of a $100,000 suit. Like, she was spying on Christy. The main character was spying on Christy, and she heard her talking about, this new line of $100,000 suits. So they're like, whenever we find those we're just going to steal, and we're going to take them for the money, right? So they ambush the show, and they do their plan, but then they have to try and run away, and as they're running away, they hear people in a warehouse talking about the $100,000 suits. So they go in there, and what they find out is that all of the people in the room are people who have been put in places on television. They are black people who have been advocating against the interests of other black people on television and news broadcasts and even in the community. Have been like, there's this whole plot line in the movie about a pyramid scheme that these people keep trying to be a part of and like falling for. And the guy who's been getting all these people into the pyramid scheme is in this room as well.
Dr. Jack.
Dr. Jack, who was one of the best scenes in the movie. He was so funny, but
he was awesome.
Like that's a big, it keeps coming into play throughout the movie that a lot of her friends and the people in her community really trust this guy. And so they're like falling into this pyramid scheme. Mm-hmm. And they reveal that all of these people are wearing skin suits. So that is the $100,000 suits that they were talking about. So they are people who had surgically removed their skin. Again, they explained all of this through dialogue. It was really bad as well.
Yeah.
They had their skin surgically removed so that they could be part of this political movement to undermine democracy and to influence people into certain ways, whatever. And I'll get into after the rundown why I dislike that. Not what they did, how they explained it or why they explained it is why I'm upset about it. Anyways, so then they end up taking those suits and then they're on the run. Now there's this huge police chase and it's very eccentric and very Wes Anderson coded. It has like these, the background is what's moving and it's like partially stop motion animated and the people who had their skin, removed are stop motion animated characters.
This is when you get like this is what reminded me of Power Rangers a lot too. Is because it's almost like the old school toy commercials.
Yeah.
Like there's little toy cars that they're using for the chase scene, and it's like very clearly on a miniature set.
Yeah.
And it was cool. It was funky.
Yeah. So when they, are about to get caught, what ends up happening is, the main character, Cassandra, decides to tell her friends, you guys run off with the clothes. I'll keep the police busy. She jumps into the teleporter and she actually ends up in China because she has the wrong teleporter. She has the one that goes to China. So now she's in this warehouse where people are starting to rally behind this girl who has been in America, stealing all these clothes and making these demands on behalf of the workers' rights. So she actually gets to see them and see how they're being mistreated and seeing how they're trying to fight back. And then she goes back into the teleporter at one point and now they're back at the fashion show. I know you're saying wait, we're going backwards. Yes, they go back to the fashion show. Now at the fashion show, which the only people in the audience are workers from the stores. Now they are starting to get into a protest a little bit, but only some of them. So they go, you know what? We're going to accelerate the situation. Now they use the accelerator aspect, right? Where they point it at all the protesters in America, and then in China, they point one at all of the protesters in China, and then they shoot that beam out at each other's thing. So they just double up on this animosity towards this company to get every worker on board with a strike, with a protest, with whatever.
It's sort of like throwing your spell through a teleporter in Far Far West, a game that we've been playing on Thursdays on Wild Dream Stream. It reminded me of that because in that game that we play on Wild Dream Stream, sometimes on Thursdays at 7 p.m. Mountain Time, on Thursdays Wild Dream Stream. On that game that we've been playing, Far Far West, we can throw spells through teleporters that will then increase the spell's effectiveness and area of effect. Right? Wouldn't you say it reminds you of that?
It does remind me of, because I've seen a couple of examples of that on Wild Dream Stream where they're playing Far Far West, sometimes on Thursdays.
Yeah.
When I take a break from watching their really, really incredible Sunday Scary series, and and when I watch Taylor on Tuesdays,
those are always such cozy.
Those are
streams,
so cozy. You get some of this fun kind of gimmicky action sequence plays and stuff like that on Thursdays, where you can see all kinds of different fun and exciting games, and also really good, funny commentary and
of course
interesting.
I love Wild Dream Stream.
Yeah, Wild Dream Stream, YouTube.
But it reminded me of that
Instagram and
a
TikTok.
little bit.
Yeah. It did remind me of that. And so they accelerated the situation. Everyone's on board with the protest, both in China and, here, because what part of the movie is that people are trying to get other people to stand up for themselves, but everyone's afraid of getting fired. So then everybody's protesting, and then Christy, the designer, confronts them, and they're like, is this what you wanted all along, blah, blah, blah. Why, how come just me? You're just bullying me. Why are you guys bullying me? Is basically what she says. So they end up cutting to an hour, later in time, and they were able to get away from the situation. And Christy has been forced to agree to the terms for the Chinese workers, and then she's been forced to agree to the demands of the people working in the stores and stuff like that. So, they win in the end. And, Keke Palmer's character, Cassandra, ends up kind of ending the movie with this thing that's been happening throughout the movie where they have this personification of her stress levels in this giant ball of just like foreclosure notices and eviction notices and past due bills and, upcoming events and like things like that. And, police presence and her like a wanted poster with her on it, all these things that are like stressing her out. They have this giant ball of it just rolling through the city. And it's not really there. It's just something that she sees. And at the very end of the movie, it rolls towards her and it gets smaller and smaller as it rolls towards her until she can hold it in the palm of her hand, like as if she's gotten a lot of stuff off of her shoulder and she feels like she can handle her stress again. And that's how she ends. And that's how the movie ends. So let's talk about it. That's the rundown. How did I do this time, guys?
Not bad, man.
Pretty.
With how convoluted this film is, that was very impressive. I remember like midway through the movie, not to say that we focus too much on the podcast and don't.
Yeah, I don't think about what I'm going to say on the podcast throughout an entire movie. But even movies I'm not doing for the podcast.
I remember halfway through the movie being really glad that I don't do the rundowns on this pod. I was like, good luck, David. But yeah, I thought that was a fantastic rundown. Yes, it is. It's funny that with all of those plot points and some of those specific examples, it still does not touch the degree of how absurd this movie gets.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
do you want to just go ahead and talk about the most absurd thing about this movie? And that is honestly, arguably, the most cuttable part of this movie? Arguably.
We're talking about the pussy eating scene?
Yeah. I'm talking about that whole character. Could have not existed.
Yeah, I think you're alluding to the scene that I mentioned in the spoiler-free talk. When this scene appears on screen, if someone walked out, I wouldn't blame them. And because, yes, this movie is a little surreal, it's eccentric, but then it goes full batshit territory with this scene, which is there is a character who we are introduced to in the very beginning of this film, actually.
Oh, yeah. Opening scene.
So this character played by Lakeith Stanfield, he sees Corvette at the beginning of the film in a club, and she seems to be kind of hypnotized by him. He runs into her later in the film while she's boosting, and he's trying to kind of spit some game, and she's like, look, man, take my number, but now's not the time. Eventually, he calls her and texts her in a very funny scene. He texts her, I believe, and says, hey, I'm about to call you, and then sends a selfie.
Yeah.
Immediately. It was really fun. I might try this kind of riz. And then he calls her, but is in front of her as well and is talking to her right in front of her. Yeah. Ultimate riz. So he's very clearly trying to court her throughout the movie, right?
And this is Lakeith Stanfield's character.
Yeah. So eventually, as she's talking with her crew and her best friends about some of the planning of how they're going to move forward with boosting and this new job and all this and that, one of her friends goes, by the way, I forgot to tell you about that guy who's keeps trying to like hook up with you.
Yeah.
And then they cut to her friend's testimony. It's a scene describing what her friend told her. And it is a scene where this is legitimately what happens. Okay, guys? It's a scene where Lakeith Stanfield, his character, goes home with her friend, hooks up with her, and then goes down on her to eat her out. While eating her out, he then transforms into a demon who, I don't even know how to describe the shape of this demon. It's
it's funny because it's very similar to the shape of illustrations I've seen of an incubus.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Which you're wearing an incubus shirt right now. Holy shit, you're a demon. So he's eating her out and he transforms into this demon, and then she starts creaming everywhere. Just
yeah, white liquid, like from Emissary Zero from that game that Wild Dream played last week on Thursday.
7 p.m. Mountain Time. So she starts just splooging everywhere, and then eventually she turns into kind of like Grayscale from Game of Thrones. And
she turns to dust and ash.
Kind of. And then it shows that he has Baraka mouth.
Yeah.
I was thinking the exact same thing. And then
From Mortal Kombat,
it's
for those who
explained
don't
that he sucked the soul out of her. So what is so insane is obviously this visual and what is happening to show that someone's really, really good at eating pussy. But also it is so funny because it shows all of this. This is the most absurd the film has gotten to this point by a landslide. And it cuts back to the conversation and going, yeah, so anyways, he like sucks the soul. He sucked the soul out of her. And Keke Palmer's character goes, I need to block him. And then they just move on.
Yeah.
It's done. And then we move on.
She goes, I guess I need to block him.
And so she rejects all of his advances throughout the rest of the movie, right?
Right.
So yeah, it is so out there. It is insane. I loved it. I really did. I thought it was.
I loved it too.
Yeah.
That's the thing is that I really liked it. It was so out there. That was the scene that I was saying, like, when I think of like, it was like a Cronenberg monster.
It was very body horror,
you know?
for sure.
And so it was just very interesting to see that. The reason why I say it's arguably the most cuttable part of the movie is because she doesn't get with the guy.
That's
It's like-
true.
so like his character, like towards the end of the movie, he helps them get into the event. Other than that, he doesn't really add anything to this movie.
Well, he adds, for the movie, I guess, sure.
Yeah.
Like for the audience, he's so necessary.
Right.
In my opinion, just because he also provides a lot of comedic relief. There's a lot of funny moments with him.
Yeah.
Even all the way to the.
You know what?
end.
I did forget his little monologue got really funny.
Yeah, with the
because he's
Target
like,
thing.
listen, I need to tell you. And it's like every time they show him, it's this really intense close up where she's like being hypnotized, and it's like the camera's like shaking and going,
Yeah.
like that, and like they play this little noise, and his lighting is always different, from the rest of the scene. And yeah, he has like this monologue, for her at the end of the movie, and it's like he starts off like it's going to be this really serious backstory. He's like, listen, I am a demon, and I do take the souls of people, of men and women, through their genitals. But a couple of years ago, I wanted my life to change. I was at a Target. At least I think I was at a Target. Yeah, I was at Target. And I don't know why I was at Target.
Why was that a Target?
Yeah, why was I at Target? I haven't been to a Target in a while. I was just like, but it's like this super intense close up, and the music's all somber, like getting like ready for this like confessional. And they even do this earlier in the movie too. Like there's a sequence where Cassandra is trying to, she's talking to Christy about why she loves turquoise so much. And they're about to show this back scene, this flashback for her. And she's like, I love turquoise because... and then it's like showing like her sitting in the back seat of a car with her two parents. And then the car moves forward. And then just immediately cuts back and she's like, actually, it doesn't matter. I was like, okay.
Well, it was she got cut off by Christy. Christy said, it's not story time, honey. So, yeah, they do that a couple of times in the movie, and it adds to the pacing.
Yeah. It becomes, it's just funny to me because I'm like, you're doing satire on, over explanations in movies. And then you actually do have a scene where they way over explain this fucking teleporter.
For sure. They over explain the teleporter. They over explain the skin suits. Yeah, this is like the really strange animation style. You said it was stop motion, right?
Yeah.
With the
I don't know what kind of
skinless people.
If it's, silicone molds with ball and arm joints, whatever, or if it's claymation, but it is stop motion animated.
Yeah, there's
these people who have no skin. So that's not even the skin people, it's the skinless
people. Yeah, true. The muscle people, if you will.
The muscle people.
There's a bunch of, again, there's a lot of eccentricities in this movie. That's one of them for sure. That's the most absurd scene in the film, in my opinion.
The incubus scene, yeah.
Is the incubus scene. But you also have like more subtle absurdism, and I think that this is kind of also ties into, obviously a lot of the colors and costume design is very reminiscent of the Cat in the Hat live action, but the Christie's apartment is slanted.
Yeah.
She lives
this
in a
is the most problemista type thing.
Yeah, it's just so...
She lives in a building that is slanted for aesthetic purposes, and then her actual apartment is slanted.
Yeah.
So she has to walk up a slanted slope and it's just like one of these things where it's poking fun at this, this idea of classism, where you see a rich person have something where you go, no one needs that.
Yeah,
like, you only want that and you seek that out because it's expensive. And it's like a way for you to show off, but it's actually super unnecessary. And really, and honestly, sometimes it's it's so unnecessary. It's actually a problem. That's how rich people live. We've seen stuff where you're like, that's ridiculously, weird, and you only want it because it's so expensive. It becomes a symbol of your class. And that's what this apartment was representing to me. She's like, yeah, I live in this super expensive building in this really expensive apartment, and it's awful. It's a terrible fucking apartment because it's slanted for aesthetic purposes.
Right. Yeah. It's so goofy and just really hits it right in terms of it's enough of a take on that idea. And I really liked it. I thought that was interesting too. And there's some really interesting editing choices in this movie. One of my favorite edits in the whole movie was when they cut from Kiki and her friend both turning their head sideways and immediately cutting to the exterior of the sideways apartment building.
Yeah.
Just like really fun little visual motifs and nods I really, really enjoyed. And I loved a lot of the set design too, because even when it's not that level of absurd, there is absurdism in, for instance, Dr. Jack's whole program.
So Dr. Jack is the guy doing the pyramid scheme.
Yeah.
And he
It's
holds
in a
his
furniture store.
Yeah. It seems like it's his furniture store maybe.
Yeah.
And he's hosting this furniture store with all these people. And like the seat that she is sitting in is like a Seuss-esque massage chair. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like where it's like, it's a machine that doesn't look like anything else and moves in a very specific way. And it adds so much comedy to this seat.
Yeah. So the movie is so alive in that way. Even when they get into the whole facility that Yan-Hu worked in, right? It's like it's a factory and it looks like a factory, but at the same time it's so colorful.
Yeah.
And so
and this becomes
bizarre.
almost Tim Burton-esque.
Yeah,
in
it
this
does.
scene.
It is very Tim Burton-esque. Yeah, so
a lot of the most creative people you can think of, there are examples that you can give that look like this, but they all, even though these scenes are very unique in their own special way, it's like that's what we say when it's special, unique, and creative, whatever.
yeah, like if you hate this movie, if someone goes and just hates this movie, you cannot say it's not visually interesting.
Yeah.
And you have to give credit where it's due. Like from opening shot to the end shot, this movie is a visual spectacle, genuinely.
And it's an auditory spectacle too, because even the opening scene needle drop, I was like, this is a fucking good ass song.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, this song actually slaps.
Yeah, the score is phenomenal in this movie, made by Tune Yards, but also the needle drops work too. There's some really good music. There's so much good style. I love too. I really wanted to. Let me catch my train of thought here. I really want to shout out. This is something that we praised Begonia for.
Oh, I know exactly where you're going.
I want to talk about how they portray corporate America.
Yes. Because this character played by the actor with the eyebrows.
You know, we're talking Will Poulter, of course, but
He said this in an interview.
he has said. I remember that interview. He's the actor with the eyebrows.
He Googles the actor with the eyebrows every now and then to see if he is still the result when you Google the actor with the eyebrows.
That's
and
right.
Yes, it is still him.
And
I'm going to Google it right now.
Eugene Levy, enjoy second place, buddy.
On God, I typed in the actor with the eyebrows and it immediately pulls up Will Poulter, British actor.
He still holds it.
Still holds the title as the actor with the eyebrows.
So the aforementioned actor with the eyebrows, his introduction in this film is fantastic because two of the employees that are working for one of these outlet stores for this fashion designer, they realize that their checks are criminally low.
Yeah.
Right? One of them's about $48, the other one's like $30-something. And they're going, man, we really need to approach our manager, played by Will Poulter, and ask him about what's wrong with our paychecks. Why are they so low? And they have to work up the courage to do it, which is also very corporate America to be like, I'm so nervous to tell my company that they are doing something illegal, you know?
Couldn't be us.
Couldn't be us. So they go and confront him. Now, what's funny about the scene, too, in its absurdism, is that the store is playing a blaringly loud EDM song, and it's like hardstyle. So if you know EDM, hardstyle is that. I mean, just shit that makes you have a panic attack. And so it's playing so loudly. So he goes to a radio that has 3 different settings of low key I don't even remember the middle one, and over the top. So it's all very, very out there. But
that was like, this kind of reminds me of like Kafka type stuff, which is another, that's a playwright. And if you don't know about like the Roach or the Rhino, like he's another very eccentric guy. Like this whole the whole department store and everything that kind of transpires with it reminds me of Kafka.
Yeah, and that's another one that I'm not familiar with because I'm not. That I am familiar with. It reminds me of the 60-30-10 rule.
I love going to the cinema. I fucking love the pictures.
Kafka.
Playwright, by the way.
So his introduction is them approaching him about what's wrong with their paychecks. And he tells them.
He gives a lot of corporate mumbo jumbo.
It's brilliant the way they do it.
Yeah, and he hits them with a...
It's always Fuji's and Funyuns.
And just like, our introspective dynamic workflow is catered around a superstar experience for our guest. And our guests, when they come into a storefront, we want to personify a certain brand identity in order to complete a synchronicity between their experience and your performance. And she's like...
And then we get a cut to the employees who are talking to him, and she goes, so we're a store.
Right. He's like, so...
And by the way, and not only does this speak to corporate America, I want to point out that this is what it's like to apply for fucking jobs.
Oh, yeah. Every
job
single
descriptions.
Yeah. They're like, and if you're like, okay, who we are a system manufacturing organization that prioritizes the expansion of systemic concepts and ideas into real life applicable products and systems and softwares for people to maximize efficiency through their processes and systems in order to better accomplish goals previously set. And I'm like, what the fuck do you do?
What do you do? And they're like, oh, we're a printer. We sell printers.
We sell printers. Okay, what the fuck, man?
Save that, man. Yeah. You would be working the cash register. Yeah. You'd be an associate.
And then
hey, say that.
It's like, hey, we want somebody to just literally check people out at this store. And they're like, what you need to be? A go-getter. Someone who experiences high-paced environments and has total calm. Somebody who loves opportunities for growth and expansion. Someone who's passionate and desires to be worked to death. I want you to be everything to us. I want you to worship us. We want someone who's, and it's just like, it's always like, we want someone who's, what they're saying is we want someone who's passionate and excited to be abused and mistreated.
For real.
It's like, we want, if you thrive in a high-paced environment, you mean I'm overworked? Is that what you mean?
Exactly.
Fuck
yeah. So it reminded me a lot of that.
It was very much that. And basically what ends up happening is he tells them through that corporate mumbo jumbo that their checks are so low because they force the employees to wear these designer brands on the clock, and then they charge them for the designer brand clothing
that they're forcing them.
So they're being charged hundreds of dollars for their work uniforms.
Mm-hmm. So it was really brilliant. I love this introduction, how they break down corporate America and how they bullshit, and it's just so cool to go from him doing this long. You did a great. That was all improv, by the way. So shout out to Dave. Like doing that kind of mumbo jumbo and then cutting to the employee going, oh, okay, so we have customers. Yes, exactly. And blah, 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 blah. And they go, and you charge, our suits. You charged us for our suits. So that is really, really.
And he's like, yeah, I just said that.
Yeah, I just said that. So it's really brilliant in how they do that. They also poke fun at it in a really fun way, too. That was me and Dave looked at each other like, that is me as fuck. Because another thing that they do is they're talking about how it's about to be lunchtime. Like, oh, I'm about to go on my lunch break.
Yeah.
And so she's like, oh, yeah, it's almost time for my lunch break. And then the manager, Will Poulter, goes, all right, guys. And they have them line up like they're about to run a track meet.
And they literally have the blocks. They have the track blocks that they do the full stance in. Will Poulter pulls out a gun and goes, boom, and then they sprint out of the door.
And they do the cartoon.
Yeah. And then they're speeding up. Yeah.
Yeah. They run out, they come back, and they're like, and they're out of breath, and they're all disheveled. And then he's like, all right, lunch break's over. And then they, in which I kind of hate that they then said, well, my lunch break's only 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I'm like, you shouldn't have said that. But
again, they do this cool stuff, and then they explain it. That's the problem. So when we do that, It's almost like, when that guy does that spiel, that fake corporate bullshit, and then they say, so you're charging us for our... It's like,
Right.
And it works better in that scene, obviously, because of the back and forth. But like scenes like that, you're right. I think that the way they personified it was amazing. Of the lunch break. I was like, even if they have a 30-minute lunch, that's how it feels.
That's how it feels, exactly.
That's how it feels when you're burnt out. It feels like boom, boom, and you're done. Like, and that's what they, showed. And then they go, yeah, my lunch break's only 30 seconds. I'm like, oh, well, now you're like making it too real.
Exactly. Yeah.
Anyways.
But that was great.
Yeah.
Love that scene. And I like how we were both like, dude.
Yeah. And the CEO of this company, the designer, she's also great in her, corporate, structure type thing, because she is one of these eccentric billionaires who is like, oh, you guys are talking to me about the horrible, god-awful work conditions of my people. I'm an innovator. I'm trying to change the world through my art and creativity. And so, like, if you guys can't get behind that message and, like, whatever, it's like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, this holier-than-thou savior complex.
Yeah.
Making what they do seem more important than it is, as if making luxury brands and $100 suits, wink, wink,
is doing something for society.
Is philanthropic. It's like, what? But it is done through, again, this reminded me of, not to this level, but it reminded me of Kanye a little bit. Like when he would talk about, fashion and getting into, and just like.
It's like kind of like Elon Musk-esque,
too. Like, I'm a god. And it's like, no, you're not, man. You made a shoe. You designed a shoe, man. Like, it's the self-importance, this idolizing of themselves. And yes, it's too, like, it's funny. That's what makes the idea of doing absurdism and surrealism in this kind of world and this kind of conversation and context. What's what makes it work so well is because it reaches a point of going, it's sad that this isn't that far off.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, this should be so out there, but I'm like, it's really not. It's pretty close to what it feels like. But I think that's what differentiates when you say like personification. Like that's what it is. It's like, oh yeah, that's why it feels so true to, even though it's absurd, it feels so true to how we feel about something.
Yeah.
What it seems like, the perception of something. So
yeah, and that's something that, Wes Anderson and Yorgos and, creators like that, like that's something that they do really well. Even Tim Burton, at times, like they take these really crazy out there concepts, they put it into the real world. Julio Torres is another example that, we talked about this on the Problemista episode, so feel free to go and listen to that. That movie does a lot of personification, to really show something out there to express a specific idea or belief or motif of their movie. This movie does that a lot of times too. I mean, like the Slanted Apartment is a whole example of that. A lot of these department stores and how they operate are examples of that. And, even these, like the teleporter thing, it's like they stole a teleporter to get free shipping, like something that could change the world for the better in a massive way. They're like corporate greed. Like I was like, yeah, like I loved every aspect of that. Even these, like the thing I had the issue with the skin suits is that these characters have been being shown throughout the movie on TV in interviews working against the interest of lower class people as they're wearing skin suits of black people. So like they have like this woman who's the crying black mother, and she's just crying because we're being so harsh on landlords and like they can't just raise our rent whenever they want. And if I want to pay higher rent, I should have the right to do that, whatever. Yeah. And it's like, it's like, we see this in real life too, like there's that Uber girl, the girl who was like, went to different, she was like in 5 different states going to different, like meetings for their state legislation I'm an Uber driver for this state, and I think that we shouldn't have unions and all this shit, right? And she got like invited to the White House, and it's like, wait, where do you Uber? Because you went to argue for like 5 different states that you Uber there. So where the fuck do you? So it's like, oh, this is a paid protester.
Yeah, paid grifters, man.
Like paid grifters, like that's what it is, and that's like, so these people are all people who were paid to, influence media and influence democracy, influence the political landscape. That's super obvious as soon as they rip their skin suits off. Then they tell you that that's what they were doing. And I'm like, oh, we knew that.
Yeah.
I'm like, you already did it.
Not only is it like I can figure that out, but now it's like, again, man, you can cut this out. Like, you're adding more runtime, this explanation. Like some of the parts of the movie that were really making me so tuned out was that part was one of those examples of they start explaining that why they did it and how they did it. And I'm like, bro, I'm watching stop motion animated characters in this real world. I'm in for the ride. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't believe that they explained it. And then same thing with Isa Gonzalez's character when she's explaining the teleporter and how it works and the thesis and the antithesis, and it's just so. I'm like, dude.
And that's the thing about minimalistic sci-fi is that if sci-fi is part of your movie and it's so to this small scale, I don't give a fuck how it works.
Honestly,
if Another Earth had a scene where they just wouldn't shut the fuck up at if you're like, oh, Another Earth, it's about how the other Earth's gravity could have destroyed ours, but we're going to explain how it doesn't.
Yeah,
no,
we don't need it.
We don't care. That's not what the movie's about.
It's not at all.
All we need to know is this is a tool that causes chaos.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I don't care how it works.
I think that's a bummer too, is that one of the other examples of this as well is the big confrontation at the end after they accelerate all of the protesters. There's this big final monologue showdown between Corvette and Christie. And it was so convoluted and not fully realized and very avant-garde, abstract. I don't really know what I'm saying, but word vomit kind of shit back and forth.
Yeah.
That I was so disinterested, and it should be a big moment.
They tried to like really nail this specific line where she's like, I'm an innovator, I'm a creator, and Kiki, calls her out and she's like, you steal designs, you take other people's shit. And she's like, anything that I take, I improve upon and I make better. And she goes, yeah, that's what we're doing too. And I was like, mic drop, I guess. I don't.
Yeah,
I was like,
it doesn't feel fully realized.
Get it.
It feels like a first draft.
Yeah,
it feels like a first draft monologue to me.
Yeah,
and it's so it gets in its own way because you can have a monologue that, not even a monologue, you can have a line that it succeeds in its brevity. I love when a line, we talk about that with music a lot, a line that will just shake you to your core. It's just one line of a lyric. Yeah. So, and I would kind of like it if films started to abide by that as well to a certain degree. I'm not saying that, I'm not advocating for even, I get it, we don't like movies, we are very big like, oh, movies should be about an hour and a half. I'm not also saying, and you know what, just get rid of all the dialogue too. No. I've seen long monologues that are incredible. Right. I even think of Hereditary and the big dinner table scene that has a lot of dialogue and it's like damn near perfect. So there is longer, more fleshed out dialogue that really works.
Yeah.
But I think it is a nice ideal and challenge to try and say something briefly to hit a point and intentionally to make it brief and make it a very succinct thing and saying, hey, this is how it is. And here it is.
Yeah, almost like, I don't know, think of like the Joker in the Dark Knight. He never over-explains his motives, right? He never explains what he's doing or how he's doing it. And then Alfred has that monologue where he explains to Batman who this man is through the story about the jewel thief. And it's like the Joker is perfect because he does not ever feel the need to explain himself or to explain to anybody what he's doing or why he's doing it. Batman still needs to know this. So it's like his dialogue is very short and brief and everything he says is really important. When he talks, you listen for the Joker. Mm-hmm. And then you get one singular monologue to Christian Bale, to Batman to explain to him, this character's motivations or lack thereof, So I think that that's an example of kind of what you're talking about. Like you can have monologues and you can have also really impactful, like just the Joker even just telling Batman, like, in order to, defeat me, you're going to have to break your rules. And he goes, I only have one rule. And he goes, well, then that's the rule you're going to have to break. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, after you do this whole chase sequence and you do this whole protest and you do everything, to then like slow the movie back down and then ramp it back up to do this, elevating the protest, accelerating the protest. And then you slow it back down again for this monologue sequence of them two, this confrontation. Mm-hmm. And if you're going to do this climax and then a second climax, and then you're going to bring in the villain and the hero and they see each other face to face for the second time after they both know each other as their enemy, why is this not a bigger moment? It just falls completely flat for me. And that's where I'm like, yeah, that's
Same.
like when you talk about recency bias, and I'm like, and I walked out the theater going, I don't know if I would own this movie. I don't know if I would watch this again. It's like, that's because of the last sequence of the movie just left a bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah. I get you, yeah. But I think that I like the way you explain that too, just that chronological pace example of up and then down and then up and then down and up and then down. That is exactly what it is. I think that's what causes that disinterest, is the kind of whiplash effect of going like, oh man, and that also further makes you confused about when the movie's going to end and what is happening. It's just such a tonal mismatch and pace mismatch. So it does get in its own way. This movie gets in its own way for sure, and it starts to become a little bit more than it's capable of doing. It's like being too ambitious and trying to tell way too many stories and not focusing and dialing in on one thing that can bring this movie home in a central theme kind of way. Yeah, and I'm not saying like, oh, just don't do all these different stories. I think you could have done, like tied these together in an important way. And I think it is, I like the fact that inherently the main character is selfish, right? Like the main characters are like, we don't give a fuck about your workers' rights or your workers' rights. We don't care. Yeah. We're thieves. And it's like they have to be convinced to support these movements. And I kind of like that too, because that's part of classism warfare. Like they convince you that it's you versus all these other people. Yeah. So like they're trying to explain to them like, no, you are us, we're all together, we're all against them. And that's a big, issue in our society, is that there's a lot of people who think that it's not about the rich versus the poor, when it is. And so even these main characters, they're not immediately on board. I'm okay with that too. I like that they have to get there to that certain point. I just think that, again, the payoff is not as extreme as you would expect it to be, or as satisfying, I guess, as you expect it to be. Sure, yeah. If you're going to do all these different stories. I think you can. You just have to do a better version of wrapping that up and making that a more impactful thing. And I think that part of that is shortening it. Make it to where they don't go back to the show. Like they go to the big show at the end of the movie, and then they do a crazy thing and escape, and then they come back to it. Like that was I'm like, I don't know what you do instead or how much you spend time with this big sequence at the fashion show, but you can't leave there and then come back. That's just so that's whiplash. Yeah, I'm just like, oh my God, wrap it the fuck up, man. But at the same time, like I said, the movie as a whole is still really good. Has a lot of really good and interesting things that they do. The camera movements are also really like fun and interesting in a lot of different scenes. The scene transitioning is very smooth and creative and like, motivated, and it's like being, move, like the camera moves in a certain way to push in on a character to show certain colors behind them, and then a matched jump shot, to another location where they're, whatever. So, they do a lot of creative filmmaking tactics along with the incredibly stylized portion of the movie to create this really dynamic flow. Like that's the word that keeps coming to my mind, is dynamic. Yeah. That high, low, lows type of, experience, that it's like very out there and different and dynamic. So my favorite part of this movie is the eccentricities of it. I think, the people, the stop motion animated skin people, I'm like, that's what you come to see a Boots Riley movie for. Mm-hmm. You come to, and spoiler alert for Sorry to Bother You, you come to Sorry to Bother You for the horse people. Yeah. So like, when a guy makes a movie about people turning into horse people, and you go see his second movie, you go, all right, what the fuck am I about to see? Mm-hmm. And then you finally get that, you go, hell yeah. Yeah. This is what I've been waiting for. It's like, very satisfying in that way.
Yeah, I love that. And then, of course, my least favorite part of the movie is the ending. I just think it needs to be reworked. Has to be more succinct. Has to be. Yeah. It's okay. Like I said, have a bow. One pretty bow. Not 14 smaller, janky bows.
Right. Yeah, my very similar for me, because, my favorite part of the movie is its ambition. Even when it is overly ambitious, I'm like, I'll take that over under ambitious, right? not ambitious enough. I'll take it. It's just a truly inspiring movie that does a lot of different things. It uses every tool in the kit for filmmaking. Like, this is maximum filmmaking. It really, really is. And
a lot of comedy too. A lot of really funny moments.
A lot of the funny moments like genuinely hit for the whole audience, by the way.
Yeah.
Because we had another good crowd this week. And then my least favorite part of the movie is the third act. Boom.
Yeah. This one is, I think, God, I really...
Hard to score.
It is very difficult to score. I'm leaning 6.5. That's the number in my head that I can't.
Fuck you. That's literally, I was like...
It's just not quite a 7. It's so close, though.
It is so close. I'll go
6.8. Frankie, can I go 6.8?
Hey, Frankie, can I go 6.8? Everybody knows, where are we? Where the fuck am I? Where the fuck am I, Frankie? Frankie,
where the fuck am I?
Oh my God, Frankie, are you here? Can you hear me?
Frankie.
Yeah, I fuck you, because I was like, dude, I have it figured out. This is a 6.5. It's a 6. It can't be just a 6. It can't quite be a 7. I've figured it out. I found it, the perfect score.
Even though I've kind of folded on my whole number only, strictness. I've been going half numbers just more willy-nilly lately. Mm-hmm. The longer we do this podcast, the more numbers I will include in that. But as of right now, I am not comfortable going anything other than half points. Yeah. So I will go 6.5.
I'll tell you what old me would have given this. I would have given it a 6.7. Hey, 6.7. Yeah, this is a 6.5 for our score. And of course, we have the exact same score. But I do think that is a great score because it is above average. It's not mid. It's not a 5. It is above average. And it is so close to being a 7. But I think about it with Problemista, that's a 7 for me.
Yeah, and I would watch that one again.
Sacramento is a 7 for me. Like, it's a movie that just, I'm so along for the ride. I'm not really bored at any point.
Right.
And it's totally inoffensively good. This one has a little bit of offensively bad
Which
parts.
is interesting because I think I would probably give Sorry to Bother You the same score, but I would have to go back and watch it again.
I would too.
It's been a very long time for me.
Same.
But I do want to, and I think that's what's going to happen with this movie too. Like, I remember after watching Sorry to Bother You, I was like, yeah, I'll probably never watch that again. Mm-hmm. But now I'm at a point where I do want to see it again because I'll bet there's a lot that I missed and that I could have appreciated more, especially after watching this. I think maybe I'd appreciate the music more, knowing that I didn't go into Sorry to Bother You knowing that the creator was a musician. Mm-hmm. This time I did, so it's a little different.
For sure. Yeah.
All right. So we're going to take a quick break and we will be back with part 2 of the podcast. And we're back. Can't even introduce part 2 without the after party getting here and spoiling everything, ruining everything. We want to have
a loved one ever been diagnosed with mesothelioma? Please know that you are entitled to compensation. If you would like to call our number, check the number on screen right now, and make sure that you get in contact with us so that we can get you what you deserve. It's me, Brian Longcar, the strong arm. I'm here to tell you that if you've ever been diagnosed with mesothelioma or maybe a loved one, that you're entitled to Oh, what the hell just happened? Get the fuck out of here. My name is Jim Adler. I'm the Texas Hammer. And I'm here to say that if you or a loved one has ever been diagnosed with mesothelioma, you are entitled to compensation. No
more saying cuss words, guys. It's inappropriate and violent.
So we have a traditional part 2 for you guys.
The after party.
Now, if you are missing the part 2 for Obsession, just know that we were really tired.
We were.
Yeah, we just, we've had conflicting feelings about part 2 in general. And then last week was one where we didn't do a part 2 and we kind of regretted it just because we then later find out so much about this movie and the making of it. And there's all these reels and videos and interviews. And it's like, at a certain point, I was like, listen, on the next episode, I'm just going to say, go look up everything about Obsession. Like, it made us like the movie more. If that's what you get out of part 2, just know the more we learned about that movie, the more we liked it.
And we're going to see it again tomorrow.
Correct.
True story.
Yeah. So I have some stuff from the IMDb Daniel has some stuff from the Reddit.
That's right. It's been a long time. I've done it. What homeland is it?
One of the first things that I want to mention is that, by the way, that Johnny Cage, that guy plays Johnny Cage.
He does play Johnny Cage.
You guys, listen, he didn't do a bad job. He just doesn't look like Johnny Cage.
Not at all.
They're talking about a guy who constantly calls himself handsome. I'm not saying Carl Urban's ugly, but if I had to... Anyways, the first piece of trivia that I want to go over is that the metaphysical device, the teleporter, was originally supposed to just be a teleporter, but then Boots wanted to change it, and that its different aspects of what it does is directly related to Marxist theory. Mm-hmm. So that's why it's like very specific and a little bit over-explained.
I saw a lot of mention of that in the Reddit thread as well, like the Marxism stuff. Yeah.
Okay, so there's a lot of trivia that's related to these dynamic colors. Okay, so I'm going to condense everything I've learned into like kind of one piece of this segment.
In conclusion,
Boots did not want the majority of the colorful aspects of this movie to be done in post-production.
Okay.
And he also didn't want it to come from gimmicks. So everything was designed very specifically for an extreme color platform. And so the costume designers, when they did all the monochromatic clothing, did very specific styles for the colors and for the clothing and for the space. And then the director of photography, they did all traditional film lighting. So there's no additional lighting aspects to incorporate for the color. Additionally, Panavision created a new lens for this movie, combining two different styles of lenses in order for them to get more color theory and color dynamics into the camera during production. So basically what Boots wanted is for the scene to be as colorful and exciting as the movie is going to be, and for the shooting of it, the film coming out with that dynamic color, you know, where there's very little that they have to do digitally to enhance the color.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So usually movies are shot completely flat and there's no, like almost no color in it, but a ton of color information. And you use those in order to change the color to whatever you want. You can change the colors, you know, vibrancy and the saturation of that color and, you know, whatever through post-production. He wanted as little of that as possible so that everything felt real and grounded. So
that's cool.
Yeah. It just turns into intentional filmmaking, you know, like that's what we love about finding out more about how movies are made, you know, is when you see a creator just really, really care and try and do something that no one's done before, and finding out they literally created a new lens for this. That's something no one's ever done before. So that's his thing. That's what Boots Riley does. The unexpected.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the other things is that Boots Riley said that the guiding word for a lot of the sets was janky. So when you talk about like the chicken shop that they live in, like it's
which
janky.
I loved,
right? Yeah. So they're squatting in an old chicken restaurant. It looks janky. Like the apartment that's slanted and has all this weird furniture. It looks janky. The furniture store looks janky. I was like, I love that. He was like, that's his guiding word for all the set designs.
Yeah. They did well because the furniture shop reminded me of like the area I used to live in Garland, like that, and that's the highest compliment I can give. It felt like a place I'm familiar with.
But it's also like when I think of like, oh, this movie looks Seussified, I also like, janky is another good word to describe Dr. Seuss type, you know, Grinch and Cat in the Hat type stuff.
Yeah.
Taylor Page and Keke Palmer apparently had a pre-existing relationship prior to them working together as actors, because Keke used to go to a restaurant that she worked at, and then she would always ask her for advice about acting.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Taylor Page is one of my new crushes. I'll tell you what, man, she is so freaking pretty.
Another, interesting tidbit about the acting, Will Poulter, the actor with the eyebrows, he is the one who made the decision to dye his hair for the different styles.
Really?
Yeah. So he said that it was a physical transformation that he initiated himself rather than one designed by a costume designer or a makeup department. He wanted to look like a hoity-toity Metro designer.
I thought that was a good choice. I like that part of his look.
And not only that, but it was like, oh, he's literally changing himself, his own, like something like not just his clothing, but what he walks around with every day for this company because he's such a corporate drone. Like that's like his thing. He's like a Stockholm syndrome, you know, whatever.
Especially considering they change the color however, you know, that's cool.
So Naomi Ackie was a British actress. And she had to do an Oakland-based accent. And so Boots Riley said that his biggest concern wasn't that she would sound American, but that she would speak properly. And he did not want the characters to speak proper English. And so, but he said that the first day that she goes on set, as soon as she got into that character, he was like, okay, I have no concerns. You know, so he was like, I was like, okay, that's a lot of dedication, not just to do like an American accent, but now you're being asked to do a regional American accent.
Right.
You know, that also comes with
one that I can't think of
different phonics
off the top of my head. An Oakland accent? I'm not really. I mean, I know E40, you know, comes to mind, but yeah.
But yeah, it's like that, and it's like on top of that, it's like, oh, it's different type of slang. It's a different type of English, you know, whatever.
That's cool.
Speaking of accents, Poppy Liu, who plays John Hu, she kind of says you in the movie.
That's what. It's
anyways. So she worked to develop a specific regional accent for China that she chose an area of China to specifically do her accent for. And then when Boots found out about that, he changed what city the factory is in to be in the region that she does the accent for.
Cool. Yeah.
So I was like, okay, so yeah, when you're making a movie that has a lot of minority actors, like really representing them in a like accurate way, I think is incredible to do.
For sure.
To like intentional. Because I'm like, yeah, if she just does a generic Chinese accent, it's like, is this offensive? Like, you know what I'm saying? If she's not from there, I don't know. Yes. So the tilted building, the tilted apartment was a set that was designed. So it actually is tilted at 17 degrees. And like Keke Palmer's wearing a harness. You can kind of tell she's wearing a harness in the scene. But yeah, so she's wearing a harness throughout the entire scene as she navigates. Yeah, one of the last things that I want to mention is just that. So Don Cheadle is the one who plays Jack.
Dr. Jack
in this movie, who's the one doing the pyramid scheme. I swear to God, after the end of the movie, I asked Dan, I said, wait, who does Don Cheadle play? And he goes, he's Dr. Jack. I was like, oh my God, I didn't know that. His name is at the beginning of the movie, and I didn't see that at all. And then the last piece of trivia that I have for you guys is that Don Cheadle asked to be unrecognizable for the movie.
Successful.
Hey,
I had no duped Dave.
Not only that, but his voice was so unique.
It was
in this movie.
Sure.
So, and he had one of the funniest like voices in the movie. So yeah, it was very interesting.
That line too in the meeting, his first appearance on screen, and he's talking to a side character. So it's kind of a side thing. It's not even like the focus of the scene, but he just goes like, yo, mama's a bitch.
Yeah.
Like,
one of the characters is like, I'm trying to get my mom to sign up, but she just goes, yo, mom's a bitch.
It was a great line.
Like, God damn, bro.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, there's a lot of like, I think the comedic timing of this movie is really good. That's definitely underrated. There's a lot more of trivia that I read about, you know, the influences of the stop motion and how they did some of the stop motion. You know, just know that, again, they took inspiration from some of the greatest to ever do it. They did build an entire set and like multiple miniaturized sets in order to do both the sequences with the live action people and the stop motion people, and also sequences to do the car chase scene, which, you know, that kind of like, that was like the influences that he uses is like the dude who made Clash of the Titans. But when I was watching the car chase scene, I was like, this reminds me of like Asteroid City, like a Wes Anderson thing. Yeah. You know, Wes Anderson has done a lot of stop motion. You know, Fantastic Mr. Fox and Isle of Dogs are both entirely stop motion movies. But yeah, so it's very interesting, again, just to see someone who is so inspired and so in tune with a creative vision that, you know, you see that represented in this movie.
Yeah, definitely. Something that I'll just kind of do one fell swoop that I kept seeing all over the Reddit thread. Apparently the dialogue audio mixing is atrocious. I did not notice it, but people are like, this is Tenet level bad. You can't like understand. And yeah, I was like, okay, so apparently that's like an elephant in the room that I didn't know existed. I thought it sounded fine. I don't know.
There was very few scenes that I noticed.
Yeah.
The audio mixing for the dialogue specifically.
But so
maybe I'm crazy too.
Just addressing that. But then someone said, guys, hear me out. Boots Riley remake of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Maybe call it Chucky and the Chocolate Corporation. And someone said, yeah, starring Lakeith as Willy Wonka. And then someone replied to that and said, okay, but let me hit you with this, Lakeith as Charlie. And no one addresses the fact that he's a grown adult dressed as a kid. So they're spitting in the right at the.
I told you, Tim Burton-esque too. That was another creator
Sure,
that I could see inspiration from that.
Someone said, I got my notepad out taking notes on Lakeith's performance, if you know what I mean.
Oh, man. Yeah, I think the direct menacing eye contact was a little much.
A little much there, buddy.
They do a close-up of him doing that, and he's like...
Yeah. We talked about the trailer and how it's so different from what the actual full realized film is. Someone said the people that are coming in expecting a heist comedy are in for a wild surprise.
Yep.
Which is very true.
I thought the movie was going to be like Cruella, too. I thought it was going to be about her designing her own clothes and then beating her out of business with her own store.
Someone said, this is an interesting perspective on both of the people mentioned here. Someone said, I feel like Boots Riley at about 90% would be an absolute masterpiece filmmaker.
That's almost what we said to a certain degree.
A little bit. But what's interesting, to show you the subjectivity of film, someone replied and said, no, he needs to go to 110%.
I can also see that perspective.
So, you go
Cronenberg, 110%.
Yeah.
You go, I don't even know where does Yorgos land? I remember one time I said Yorgos Lanthimos is who Wes Anderson thinks he is. Mm-hmm. Famously hot take.
Someone replied to the take about if Boots Riley was only at 90%, he'd be a masterpiece filmmaker. Someone said the Hideo Kojima of filmmaking. And I'm not familiar enough with his games.
Is that the Silent Hill guy?
Yeah, Silent Hills, Metal Gear Solid,
PT?
Death Stranding. Yeah. So that's kind of interesting. It's just seeing the perspective and perception of people. And then I save these for last, so you'll see why. It is because they are saying things that are so eerily similar to what we are saying on the podcast.
Okay.
So someone said, this was insanely original. The first act was incredible. The second act was pretty good. And the third act overstayed its welcome just a tad. So that point is very, very much what we were saying. But it gets even more. They said, there's an incredible amount of weird flair coupled with one of my favorite scores of this year. Not something that I'd listen to, but the way it complements the wacky tone is perfect. And then they say...
That's basically what I was saying, yeah.
Then they say... The general social commentary is a tad ham-fisted, but I don't mind it.
No fucking way. Why would you post on Reddit and then read your own comment?
What the fuck? So it doesn't mean clumsy or not. And maybe that is what they're saying, but it seems like the social commentary is a little heavy-handed.
So people have been using ham-fisted to mean heavy-handed.
This is a Wild Dream fan, 100%. They heard me say that, and they're just saying that all the time now. And then, this one says, this is a new comment, absolutely insane. This is kind of like the Daniels, Wes Anderson, and David Lynch donated sperm to the womb of a Dr. Seuss work.
Stop playing with me.
Yeah, pretty crazy that I was like, man, we are we really need more fans. Like, think about the fact that these are commenters that are saying these. I'm like, dude, they would love this podcast. What the hell? Anyways, yeah. So that was a fun part too. We found a lot of stuff to mention. So, hell yeah.
Yeah.
I love Boosters.
Go check it out. It's a good movie.
It is.
If we're doing a watch skip plus version, well, I would say this is a watch. Mm-hmm. Thank you guys for tuning in. We really appreciate all of the love and support that we get from you guys, regardless of its severity. We do this for the love of the game.
Facts.
And we're always here for you. You can interact with us. Let us know what you thought of this episode. If you listened all the way through, let us know what you think of this movie. If you went to go see it, we are at Wild Dream Pod on Instagram and TikTok. We're also live streaming all of the time. We're live streaming at least 3 times a week right now. At least 0 times a week. At most 3 times a week.
There you go.
At most 3 times a week. Obviously, we do that for the love of the game as well. So, we're always having fun over there. We are at Wild Dream Stream on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Twitch. But until next time, we love you. We kiss you. Good night.
Good night.